Hello friends, it is Julie. Welcome back to Pages and Pens. Today I am here with my favorite mixed media book recommendations. Let's jump right into it. So today I have a couple of books. I have a stack in front of me and I think there's a post-it note in here somewhere with other recommendations as well. But I had a comment from one of you on one of my videos asking me to recommend some of my favorite mixed media books. I don't know if it was on my discussion about House of Leaves or if it was something else, but one of you asked me to do a recommendation video on my favorite mixed media books. Now there's a lot out there. I haven't read all of them, but the ones that I have, I wanted to talk about because personally, I think it's a great way to break up a narrative and to really add some intrigue and interest into a book if it's done correctly. And I think that for these books, it has been done correctly, so I wanted to discuss them with you. It's an experience. Mixed media, if you are not familiar with mixed media in a novel, mixed media is anything from imagery to unique writing styles. There might be case files, there may be interviews, there may be photographs, there could be interactive footnotes. All of the things that kind of stand out and make a book a little bit less than just a traditional straightforward text dialogue and narrative. So that's what we're going to talk about. I have less on the adult side than on the YA side, so we're just going to start with adult. I'm going to jump right into one that has probably the least amount of mixed media, and that is The Patient by Jasper Dewitt. This is a short little book, and I don't know if you can tell just how many tabs are in this, but there's a lot. I loved this book. I'm also very confused about what is classified as thriller and what is classified as horror. This was terrifying to me, but I loved it. This is told in some interviews and some patient files, but also as a straight narrative. This is supposed to be right off of Reddit, a doctor who was discussing a patient on Reddit, and then it turned into this novel. I believe the story itself was actually just on Reddit at first and then transcribed into a book. If that's even true, I don't know. But there are some patient files, doctor's notes, etc. in this book. They don't stand out from like a textual standpoint. It's just a different font. It's, you know, doctor whatever, and like little bits of their notes you can see in the typeface. It's just a little bit different. It's a short little book. It is terrifying. It is absolutely like a psychological thriller. It's about a doctor in a psychiatric patient's facility and kind of uncovering this one specific patient and how everybody they encounter tends to just lose a little bit of touch with sanity. They've gone through all of these doctors. Nobody can stay with this patient for too long, that they either end up dead or going crazy. We follow that story, but there are different patient and doctor interviews. This one is like interview style. Some of them are just doctor's notes, etc. But it is a little bit of a mixed media standpoint, just in terms of like a font change and seeing some files. This one also probably has less of it, but also one of the most. I don't know if that makes any sense. This is The Nothing Man by Catherine Ryan Howard, and this one is a book with two POVs. One is a killer who is reading a novel that the survivor of one of his murders has written. The other one is the girl who survived now as a woman. So we follow the woman who was once the child who survived this murder of her entire family. And then she's written a book now cataloging her experience and that night and how that has influenced her growing up, etc., etc. And then we see the serial killer reading the novel. So it is very much a book inside of a book. And there are two different font changes in here, one for the killer who is reading the book and one for the woman who is writing the book / has lived it. Maybe it's just a dual POV, but there is like a textual change and like book excerpts in this. It's wild. I love Catherine Ryan Howard's writing. I think for me, her book Rewind and then this one are my favorite, but I have read everything from her and I just really, really like it. So this is an interesting take on a novel, and especially like a thriller, suspense, murder mystery novel, to get the actual murderer as he reads about his survivor. It's kind of wild. I really, really liked it. And I don't think anybody is going to be surprised to see House of Leaves on this list. This to me is the quintessential mixed media novel. This has a book inside of a book, inside of a movie, inside of chaos. I have an entire reading vlog on this. I have an entire live show on this. I have talked about this book ad nauseum on this channel. Clearly, it is one of my favorite books of all time. This is told very much in mixed media. So this is probably one of the most intense forms of mixed media. We have text that goes all different ways in all different kinds of blocks. There are extensive footnotes in this novel. There is 2 different timelines, 2 different POVs, very interesting use of space on pages where some pages are blank, some pages have maybe just 1 word. Words that are kind of scattered all over the page that are meant to disorient the reader, but this does take you through case files in the back. There are some pictures and mixed media in here. So this is about a movie, so you do have transcriptions of video footage. You also have interviews. You have, again, the footnotes. There's nothing mixed media related that I don't think you find in here. And it's just a very immersive and involved reading process. I think in terms of mixed media, this does it very smartly. Smartly. It's brilliant. For me, personally, it's just great. So this. And then I want to mention, this is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski, if I did not say his name. Then I want to mention Night Film by Marcia Pessel, which does have mixed media in it. I believe there's case files and photographs. I listened to the audiobook, and when I found out that there was mixed media in it, I was blown away. Did not know that that was a thing, but I did really enjoy that book, so definitely check that out, because I think that having access to the mixed media while reading it would have probably been really amazing. I did not have that, and I still loved it, so I can't imagine that you wouldn't. I think that was it for adult. Not a ton, to be quite honest. And then I have one mixed media that I don't own that's YA, and that's Sadie by Courtney Stevens? Courtney Summers, Courtney Stevens. I get them very confused. But it's Sadie. This one, again, is told in interview format, so we get a present timeline and then an interview, like police file kind of a situation, and I really like that. Kind of leaning that way is Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall. This is another novel that does that. It has a current timeline where a police investigation is happening. They're looking at photographs, they're looking at camera footage, phone, text messaging, and then they're also talking, then you also see the events that are taking place that lead to this investigation. So within this, you will see some text messaging. You'll see, this is video evidence, it says up on the top, and then it says like the group hunkers in an empty room, wallpaper is covered in flowers, and then you get a dialogue back and forth between all of the characters as they're in the video footage. This one is video footage retrieved from a phone, and then you go back and forth with like photographic evidence that's being described and kind of cataloged throughout the novel. So another really fun one where you might not get visuals, but you're getting accounts of the visuals and accounts of the videos. And it does lend to the creepy factor and the sense of urgency kind of happening within this story. And I really, really liked it. This is one of my favorite books. I love Kate Alice Marshall. I want to talk about one that I think is so brilliant, but it is a little bit more of like a standalone, and that's Night of Cake and Puppets by Laini Taylor. If you've read her Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, one of my favorite characters in that is Susanna and Mick, and that is Caru's best friend and her love interest. And we do have time away from them. This novella follows them in that time away from the main character and the main story, and it's just amazing. But it is very much a mixed media kind of a situation where we have text messaging, we have notes, we have drawings and illustrations. Her husband is an illustrator, so this is illustrated by Laini Taylor's husband. It's stunning, and I think that this does mixed media in a really fun way because the characters are very artistic, so it makes sense for their book to look like this. Also, it's just one of the most stunning novels in general in terms of like physically stunning. It's beautiful, and it is signed and personalized, which does not hurt. But I love this book. I love being able to see Mick and Susanna outside of the other novels, and it is just a very cool kind of almost graphic novel-y, but very illustrated story that takes place, and I think it's stunning. I love it. So I'm going to mention that because it leans a little bit more graphic than mixed media, but I think it really, really works for that novella, but you would have to have also read the other series. It's not going to really make sense unless you have. So that's one that's a little bit less a standalone, where you'd have to be invested in that series before that book made sense. And I think that's the only one like that. And then when I think of mixed media, I think everybody thinks of Illuminae and this series by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This is kind of what woke me up to mixed media. This is told in different case files. It has images. There are different court-martial files. There are text messaging. Everything in this is mixed media. Everything. There's pictures, there's data, there's video recordings, there's different case files and briefings. This is not told almost at all, except for maybe a couple of pages, in any kind of straightforward, what we would call like novel type text. And it's brilliantly done. You would think that it might take away from the plot of the story or the character growth of the story, but it doesn't at all. And it's very accessible for those who are just getting into mixed media. I think this series is brilliant. I think it really did kind of revolutionize and normalize this mixed media type of format. At least for me, it was my first experience with it, and I think it's stunningly done. So this series in general, while I think it has its flaws, and each story for me has little bits of flaws in them, the way that the story is delivered is so smart and so fun and so accessible, and I adored it. I also have heard that the audiobooks for this are amazing, so if you are not somebody who wants to put in the mixed media kind of format for this, I believe their audiobooks are also full casted and have like background music and kind of lend to the mixed media vibe of it. So maybe check those out if you're not super into like physically reading mixed media. I will also mention the Nevernight series by J. Kristoff, which is up off camera. Oh no, you can kind of see them maybe a little bit right up here. He does a lot in terms of footnotes in those novels, but in terms of mixed media, it's really just the footnotes in those. I don't think there's anything else mixed media about them. It's just a footnote for me. And that's hit or miss. Some people love them, some people hate them. I didn't mind them, but it's not for me like a true mixed media. If it's just a footnote thing and kind of like an insight into the narrator's mind, technically I suppose it is, but I didn't include it in this list. Then I'm going to talk about The Wicker King by K. Ankrum. I have my bookmark on here. This book is one of my favorite books of all time. I adore this book, and there's a little bit of mixed media in K. Ankrum's The Way to the Stars in terms of letters and recordings that come back from our main character's mother who's out in space. So there is mixed media in her novel as well in The Way to the Stars, but I didn't pull both of them down off my shelves. It's up there. But this one specifically has a lot of mixed media. This has different pictures and songs that you can listen to, lots of illustrations in here. There's also one of the most impactful kinds of mixed media that I think I've read in ever. We have it is a recipe for cupcakes. There is photographs. But one of the things that I think was most impactful for me in terms of mixed media, though there's all different kinds in here, if you can see on the side of the book, we start at very light pages, typical pages, and then we start to get a little bit darker. So these pages actually start to take on a little bit of a hue. You can see there's a little bit of a cast down here at the bottom of this page. This one, the cast kind of extends up the sides a little bit more. We're getting some darker pages here. You can see how they start to get a little bit darker all the way around the frame of the page. Again, we're getting darker and darker and darker and darker until eventually the pages of the book are just black. So this does really catalog a decline in the mental health of our character from more normal, which there is no normal, to like a darker, more manic and troubled state of mind. And I thought that that was so incredibly well done. One of the things I also love about Kay Ankrum, she does this in The Way to the Stars, and she does that in this novel as well, is that her chapters are very short. They are incredibly gripping and moving, and you just want to fly through the pages. It's nearly impossible to put these books down, but I love the way that she used mixed media in this novel because there is a lot of imagery and a lot of very vivid feelings and emotions in this novel, in all of her novels. But she utilizes mixed media very smart and very wisely, and definitely to evoke emotion, and this is one of the best examples, I think, of that as well. She can do no wrong. If you have not checked out Kay Ankrum yet, you should. And then last up, I want to talk about an entire author, and that is Dawn Kurtagich. Dawn Kurtagich wrote The Teeth in the Mist, The Dead House, The Nadia Files, which I'm saying incorrectly, and The Trees Crept In. All of her books have mixed media in them, and they're all terrifying. She plays really well on senses and emotions and a sense of urgency and tenseness, but also mixing in mixed media makes it so exciting. So in this page, we have very dark text. This is all written backwards. Is photographs. There is like dark hallways and stairways. There are different notes. Again, this backwards kind of writing. Notes that they find, like letters and things. They're all very, very creepy, and I adore it. Again, we have the use of black pages. It's really smart. Again, I think that there's phone footage, there's video footage, there's interviews, there's all different kinds of different typeset in this that are, I just saw an annotation I put in here. There's notes and things from main characters to one another, but all of her books have this. They have a like found footage, Blair Witchy kind of a feel to them that are really, really neat and very dark and ominous, and they add to the emotion of her novels. Look at this goat. This is the one. I love this page. It's so creepy, but I love it. Anyway, this is one of my like favorite books, even though I do think that there are like some flaws with it, but I love the way that she tells the story, and she uses mixed media to really like amp up the fear factor, and she does this through all of her books. All of her books have some form of mixed media in them, and I think if you're looking for a horror mixed media, this is the way to go. If you're looking for more contemporary mixed media, Kay Ankrum is a great option. If you're looking for sci-fi mixed media, then Illuminate. This series is a fantastic option. So we've got horror, contemporary, and sci-fi. This one is fantasy, but again, the main series does not have mixed media, just this novella. And then I've noticed that a lot of horror and thrillers and mysteries tend to have mixed media. This is a thriller horror, this is a thriller mystery, this one is horror, and this one is a thriller horror YA. It tends to be very popular in that genre. So those are all my recs. That's everything I had for you for mixed media. Let me know if you have a recommendation down below for mixed media. I'm always on the lookout for new mixed media recommendations for myself because I just personally really enjoy reading mixed media. So if you have one, let me know down below. If any of these are a favorite, or if I've convinced you to pick up any of these, definitely let me know as well, because they are some of my favorites. They live on my shelves, and you guys know I am not shy about unhauling books. If I did not love these, they would go. So they are all here. They're all on my shelves, which means they're amazing. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for the comment that inspired this video. If you have another video idea for me, definitely leave it down below as well. If you liked it, be sure to give me a big thumbs up, click subscribe, click the notification bell so you know when I put out new content, and I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.